Good to have you on the program, and of course it is the Polity on Kaftan Television. It's a pleasure sharing the moments with you again at a time like this on this program. I am Okechukwu Onobogo, and today we'll be looking at something that has to do with, just as always, polity, of course, but then this time what has to do with governance and certain things that have to do with foreign policy. And so today we'll have a guest that will also help us reach out even to the foreign policy discussion so as to make sure you perfect it all. But before I get to introduce my guest, who happens to be an ambassador, or former ambassador, of course, because once ambassador, always an ambassador, I also want to give you a little information as concerning what we want to talk about. And this is just to inform you that, of course, we do know that the TICAD 9 just ended. And TICAD 9 is, TICAD itself stands for the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. Tokyo International Conference on African Development. And of course, it happens to have held in Tokyo, Japan. That's the capital city of Japan. And that program is a conference held every 3 years, alternating between Japan and an African host country. You know, each year, after each 3 years, it goes to Japan. The next 3 years, it goes to one of the African countries, and it goes on like that. It keeps going on like that. And it focuses on Africa's development and cooperation between Japan and Africa. This 9th edition that we're talking about now, that is called TICAD 9, just ended. It just ended at Yokohama, Japan. And of course, it was from 20th to 22nd. Of course, today, of course, is 22nd. And that is it. There are certain aspects of this that we will need to get to know, and like the theme of the gathering itself and the purpose for which it was held. The theme is to co-create innovative solutions. That's this last one. The theme is co-create innovative solutions for Africa's development challenges. Co-create innovative solutions for Africa's development challenges. And there are objectives. One major objective of it is to accelerate Africa's transformation into a more prosperous, integrated, and peaceful continent. To accelerate Africa's transformation into a more prosperous, integrated, and peaceful continent. Then, of course, the participants are the African leaders, Japanese government officials, international organizations like the United Nations organization, that is United Nations, and the World Bank, and the private sector stakeholders. All of them are the people involved in these, the stakeholders in this meeting. And there was an agenda, discussions on development themes in Africa, discussions on development themes in Africa, including investment, innovation, and sustainable development. Nigeria is attending TICAD 9 for the first time, and of course, I did mention that this is the 9th edition of this meeting. That's why it is 9. And Nigeria just attended this one that just ended. Happens to be Nigeria's debut TICAD meetings, and we had President Bola Tinubu leading the delegation. He led the delegation that went to Japan for the meeting, and they had goals, and one of the goals is to strengthen economic ties with Japan. That's one. To expand trade with Japan, and to attract Japanese investment in agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. Our president led that team that went there. It's a platform that is global. Nigeria is using TICAD to lobby for reforms in the global financial system and key international positions, such as a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for Nigeria, of course. And there are impacts that this TICAD has made in the lives and in the world and in the continent of Africa, and as it also affects Japan itself, that is the brain behind the entire gathering. There are policies that also come from them. Past conferences of TICAD have influenced global policies, such as shaping the Global Fund to fight AIDS, shaping the Global Fund as well to fight tuberculosis, as well as even to fight malaria. And you know something about malaria, that malaria being fought is mainly for Africa, because Africa seems to be the only place where you talk about malaria. And that was why when the initial fellows that came to Africa that you referred to themselves as explorers and all, died. Many of them died as a result of malaria, because they didn't have such sicknesses and such ailments, or whatever you call it, from where they came from. And so they came here to find something different, something new, and something novel. Before they could get to understand it, many lives had been lost. And so it's part of the things that that is being discussed as global policies, you know, in that conference that just ended, to discuss how to get funding for the treatment of fighting of AIDS, treatment of malaria, treatment of tuberculosis, and all that. And there are partnerships. Talking about fostering partnerships between Japan and Africa, promoting African ownership and international cooperation in development initiatives. You must have seen recently where they will talk about Chinese, Nigerians in China being disturbed and all that. If there were to be such a gathering like the way we have talking about TICAD, that wouldn't have been happening in China. And I hope that after this discussion, a lot will happen to change or effect the change, as it will also affect China and all those other countries. So in Japan, there is this gathering, and as a result of that, it fosters effective partnership between Japan and Africa. And when you have a partnership with someone, you make sure you protect the interest of that person in your home, as the fellow protects the interest of your own interest in his home. That's the sort of thing that's going on in that partnership. And Nigeria has just joined, and our President Bola Tinubu, led Nigeria's delegate to that TICAD 9, which I must say is something that is good to hear, that we are extending reach to ensure that everything concerning the well-being of the nation is taken care of effectively the way it should be. Oh, well, that's just about what we'll be discussing today. And as I did say, I have a guest that I'll be bringing in, and he will be talking with me all about that. That has to do with this TICAD 9 and all that. Now I'm talking about someone that is, I did say an ambassador. He is Ambassador Obole Amedu Ode. He happens to be former Nigerian High Commissioner to Singapore, and one-time spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he also served as Nigeria's ambassador to Mexico. That is Mexico, as some people will want to call it. And he is also a prominent voice on Nigerian foreign policy and diplomacy. Ambassador Obole Amedu Ode is an advocate on the importance of media, and of course in shaping a vibrant foreign policy. It's the fellow with whom we'll talk this day, and we'll share a lot more and get to hear his side of the story, and of course get to be educated on some of the things that we need to know concerning this foreign relationship and all that. We also have foreign affairs reporter that also is here. Of course, this would also enable him perfect his work. So it's a good thing that we're making sure that we'll get things done here. And we'll come on to talk about TICAD 9 in particular, especially our president's involvement, our president's leading the delegation rather, that went to Japan, that went to Yokohama for this particular gathering. Well, we'll still talk. We'll still have a lot to share. Even as the time permits us, we'll go on to do that. And don't forget that in actual fact, by the time we start, just taking a few minutes, a few talks from our guests, we'll open our phone line for you to be part of it. And so we want to hear you, get to understand what you're saying and what you feel and how you think it should go on. Well, let's just say we'll take a break and we'll return and go on with the rest of it. Good to have you back again. We're still on it. It's called, of course, it's called the Polity, and I had mentioned the fact that today we're discussing the TICAD 9, and so we'll get straight onto doing that. But my guest is an ambassador. He is Ambassador Ogbole Ameduode, and he was a Nigerian High Commissioner to Singapore, and a one-time spokesperson or spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Not only that, he headed, of course, Nigeria when it comes to being in Mexico. He was the ambassador. And prominent, I must say, he is a prominent voice on Nigerian foreign policy and diplomacy. And so today we have him to help us understand some of the things that have happened. And he is also an advocate on the importance of the media in shaping a very vibrant foreign policy. Good to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Right, sir. Ambassador Ode, what is the strategic importance of Nigeria's participation in this TICAD 9 under President Tinubu's leadership, because he led the team that went there?
Well, thank you. Because it's a committee of nations, the geostrategic interests of nations will always have to be shifted away from any other one in order to project what it is our national interest on the global level. But to put it in proper perspective, the question that should come to one's mind is, what are the imperatives for the international community in general? The developed economies in particular, and if you may will, the global north in engaging with Africa. It is simple. The resource base, the resource endowment of Africa is the attractive point. And that is why a lot of the people, pundits now, look at what is going on now as the second scramble for Africa.
Yes.
After the 1884-1885 Berlin Conference that parceled out the continent to territories. But in the current dispensation, territorial holdings are no longer the in thing. So it is a question of creating spheres of influence. Now, TICAD came into existence in 1993 at the time when the Cold War had come to an end, and what people saw as donor fatigue on aid givers led to the initiative on the Japanese part, aided and supported by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. Now, because Nigeria is in Africa, it's as simplistic as that, because also Nigeria is Africa's largest country population-wise, and because also of our resource base, both human and material, it becomes of significance for us not to be left out in an outing like TICAD, the TICAD process.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And just as you just mentioned, this happens to be the 9th edition, and it means it's been there so about 27 years ago when it started. Okay. From President Tinubu's speech, what do you as an individual consider most significant, or the most significant message to Japan and the wider world?
Okay. Thank you once again. Mr. President's speech there laid a lot of emphasis on security. And for me, that is quite apt, if not succinct. The reason is very simple. Adequate security in any climb is a necessary but perhaps not a sufficient condition for economic growth and development. And for the past decade, if not more, Nigeria has been bedeviled by insecurity and hampering on our national development, impinging on our progress as a people, gulping up huge budgets. Therefore, if Mr. President took off on a tangent of security at his outing in Yokohama a few days ago, it means he was on the right track, harping on the fact that there is need, if not indeed an imperative, for security to be provided within our national space in order for us to be able to realize what our potential are as a country in terms of our resource endowment, both human and material.
Okay. Looking at it again, there was a demand he made, which is important that we think about it, ask you about it. President, he called for the UN Security Council reform, with Africa gaining a permanent seat.
Both.
In fact, gaining permanent seats, not even a permanent
two,
seat.
he said.
Yes, gaining 2 permanent seats. And how realistic do you see this demand, and what does it mean for Nigeria, our country?
It's good that at a place, at an outing like that, he should put the right foot forward by requesting for 2 permanencies for Africa and the UN Security Council, and 1 or so outside the non-permanent circle of the United Nations Security Council. But again, if we have to put it in proper perspective, you will recall that Japan is also angling for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. So it's a question of, if we know what diplomacy is all about, which is reciprocity, it could be that if Japan can mobilize support for Nigeria's candidature or candidacy, if you may will, then Nigeria will be in a position to mobilize support, especially African support, for Japan's ambition to join the permanent seat. So it's making the call in the right place.
That's good. Looking at it again, thinking about it really, scratch my back, I scratch your back.
That's it, the game of reciprocity.
Yes, reciprocity. Well, looking at it the other way now, we'll move from our president and to their president, and let's look at what Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has said. Prime Minister Ishiba outlined Japan's agenda, noting that TICAD has since 1993 been built on the principles of African ownership and international partnership. Now, how well does this align with Nigeria's priority in power, Nigeria's priority in industry, Nigeria's priority in youth development? Because in actual fact, in our country, there is strong need for youth development because we have more of youth than anything else. How well do you think it works?
Okay, again, it flows from the Japanese Prime Minister's statement, from his move. He had indicated loudly so that they have allocated or budgeted $5.5 billion over the next couple of years to be invested in Africa, in the areas that you have just specified. I think and I believe that the onus is on the Nigerian side to be able to now take advantage, to leverage on this offer in order to put its cards on the table and ask for how much of this they can get and to what extent it will be deployed towards realizing the agenda of the government in power.
Okay. And looking at it, that power is a serious thing which this government, this administration has talked about, and power from power industry is another. In fact, it's about these two major things seem to be the major thing that this government is talking about. But all the same, I want to ask, Japan is deepening its engagement, while China already has strong influence in Africa. And how can Nigeria balance this relationship, you know, to maximize gain, that of Japan, that of China? How can we balance it to get the best of it, both of them?
Well, you know, in international relations, nations interface based on the platform of their national interests.
Yes.
Now, what are Nigeria's national interests? You've mentioned it. We have a youth bulge that we need to properly educate, to properly equip in order to be able to cope with the 21st century as we know it. Now, what is therefore Japan offering? Japan is offering that they will trade 30,000 African youth in the next 3 years in the area of artificial intelligence. And the money they have allocated, from the report I read, the statement by Prime Minister Ishida, is that a dozen universities will be empowered in order to begin to run these courses in their campuses. They mentioned Uganda, one other country, and a few others. But unfortunately, I did not hear Nigeria being mentioned. Given our size, I thought also that Nigeria would have been mentioned. Now, perhaps what we need to do is to push for a good share of the training of the capacity building in this specific area, which is an emerging area in world economics in terms of deploying artificial intelligence in order to carry out most, and if not all, of human endeavors, including in medicine.
Including in medicine.
Yes.
Yeah, because there is robotics in medicine these days, and we see it happen. And they use it to carry out so many things. And then
to go on to how will Nigeria balance its interests in order to get the best out of both the two Asian giants, China and Japan? Well, Japan initiated TICAD in the year 1993. 7 years later, in the year 2000, China rolls out its own Forum of China-Africa Cooperation. And I have had the opportunity, the privilege of being on ground when they hosted one of the editions right there. So Nigeria should be able to put its cards on the table. But you don't just put your cards on the table. What do these countries want from you? Are we able to provide that which they want in return for that which we want? The moment we are able to put this in proper perspective, establish an equilibrium between what they want and what we want, I think we are good enough to go.
Okay. Okay. We hope it will happen. I will be able to balance it so that I will be able to be good enough to go. Just as you said.
Thank you.
Now, there is this other matter. You know, we heard a lot about the Nigeria booth saga, Nigeria booth, empty booth, and all that. So I want to talk about that. This viral video, and the narrative about the empty Nigerian booth at TCAD 9. The State House clarified that Nigeria is focused on strategic meetings, not exhibitions. But earlier, before that one came up, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on its X handle that the booth will be officially inaugurated a day after the opening ceremony. And looking at this one and the earlier promise, what are your thoughts on this matter? Are we seeing a case of, how do we say that, miscommunication, or was someone simply sleeping on duty as far as this matter is concerned?
If you ask me, there must have been preparations in order to have the Nigerian booth properly equipped with both material and human elements, our compatriots to man the booth. However, going from my experience in the public service, there might have been some break in communication serially to have led to that fiasco. Okay, so the way I see it is this: which parastatal, which department of government or which agency of government is responsible to carry out that assignment? That agency of government should be identified, and I believe it's identifiable, and then the necessary actions, sanctions applied in order to forestall a repeat of this sort of embarrassment.
It's good you use the word embarrassment, because that exactly happens to be a perfect description of what we saw. And looking at this, if these steps you have mentioned will be taken, then that will help the nation to move on. But if not, you find out that it still remains a problem. Well, we'll still have people that will call eventually at the end of the day, before we end the day, to talk to us about this and to ask questions. And I'm glad that you are here to help us out when the questions will come. If by any means the network will let them call the way they normally do on this program. We're not done. I still have to ask you more questions. But before then, we'll just take a break and we'll return. After that, we'll continue with this. Good to know you're still there, and we'll say welcome as we continue with the program. And of course, I still have my guest, Ambassador Obole Amedu Ode. Yeah, that's it. And he had been Nigeria's ambassador to Mexico and, of course, to Singapore. So it's not just one. And he was once the spokesperson for the External Affairs Ministry. So we'll talk. I'm talking with someone that is quite seasoned and who understands the story effectively. Yes, we got the information quite all right that that booth was eventually equipped the next day. But that is not just the main thing. I want to say that one interesting development from that booth saga was that the explainer by the president's spokesman, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, that Nigeria is pursuing bilateral opportunities with Japan in energy, automobile, partnership, and finance. Then do we have a favorable business environment at home for those deals to thrive? And I want to add to this question that I just asked you. You know, talking about especially automobile, would that help to, what would that help talking about the fact that we have like Innocent in Nigeria, and so when they come with theirs, what happens to us? Please, let's look at that together.
Thank you for that question. Yes, we've attended TCAD 9, Tokyo International Cooperation for African Development, the 9th edition in Yokohama, and the shopping list is there. Your question is like two in one.
Yes.
But let me go to the second one. What happened to the local automobile industry if they're coming with that, with theirs? I think and I believe that what the federal government should do through the Federal Ministry of Industries is to set up a scheme that protects local industries as against the foreign ones, and provide a level playing ground in such a way and manner that the local industries will be able to survive and thrive the kind of competition that will come from the foreigners.
Yeah.
And it has always been like that. If I knew a question like this would have come, I would have come with a book written by a South Korean academic in Oxford, and the book is aptly titled "The Bad Samaritans," and it tells you how other countries try to use aid and grants and official development grants in order to stifle growth within your domestic industry.
Yes.
And one of the victims of this is the popular automobile maker Toyota. The first time Toyota went out, it was a disaster. But the Japanese government, as an extension of its program during the Meiji Restoration, made sure that local industries were not only protected, but government invested heavily in such industries in order to make them thrive.
Sustain them.
Good. Now, yes, we can also bring foreigners in order to establish a competitive ground for the local industries to also realize that they either stand up and do well, or they'll go under.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. That's for that. Talked about energy as well as finance. Energy. Well, I think we need them seriously concerning the energy matter, because our country and the way it is, we know. Okay, we'll still talk about this when they make some calls and you get to hear some of these questions they will bring in.
Okay.
But I want to say that as this summit prepares to release the Yokohama Declaration, or even if it has been released, it's yet to come out effectively. What key outcomes should Nigeria be pushing for?
Well, already from what Mr. President stated in his speech, we're looking at a level of securing our national space in such a way that life and property are secured, so that people can go around and about their normal businesses, so that industry and economic activities can thrive. And if the Japanese are in a position to offer us any assistance, any cooperation in the area of establishing adequate security within the country, then that is welcome. And if they go ahead also to cooperate with us in the area of automobile and other industries where they have comparative advantage, competitive advantage, then we are also, I think, willing to accept that and then move ahead and see how we build our country.
Dear viewer, you have been part of it in a while now, and we want to get you to be part of it completely. As we normally do on this program, we ask you to make your calls and say what you think. And if you have questions, you can ask, and we'll find out how we can get solutions to the problems you have brought forth through our guest anyway. And but he is here already, and we expect, even as the phone line has been displayed for you to see on the screen, we expect to receive your call, so that we're going to make it an all-encompassing affair, as we always do on this program. The phone line is there, and so I wouldn't need to mention it since you've got your eyes and to see it. But all the same, we want to, if someone that is part of this program happens to be visually impaired, please ask someone around you to give you to call it for you, because we still want to hear from you. It's for everyone, not just only for those who are sighted. It's for everyone. And it's still the Polity and the station Kaftan Television, King and Dawali Film Theatre Arts Network, Kaftan Television. Okay, we still have our guest here, Ambassador Obole Amidu Ode. And Ambassador here, we still have questions to ask him. you still want to hear him say more, in addition to the one you will bring in, then we'll continue with the program. And so I would just want to ask this, and after this, we'll take a little time out after answering the questions. We'll return and go towards the concluding part of the program. And that is to say, on a general note, concerning Nigeria's foreign affairs, foreign policy trust, on a general note, I want to say, Ambassador, I want to ask this to say that we believe that a lot happens, but let's say your colleague, Ambassador Shola or Eniko Olaye, who served as a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and is currently the senior special assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs, has argued that the Tinubu administration has shifted Nigeria's diplomacy from a passive stance to a result first model. Result first, you know. But the presidency has also claimed that more than $50 billion in foreign investment have been secured through diplomatic engagements. How credible are these figures, and which sectors are most likely to benefit from these funds that have been claimed to have been secured for the country?
Okay, the credibility or otherwise of the presidency's statement is, to me, shouldn't be in question, except if there are verifiable facts that the presidency is not telling
The truth. Okay.
Now, if it's action-oriented, and I must pay compliments, the gentleman you mentioned is an erudite, has scholar who has robust intellect, and from what you claim he has said, I'm sure he must have said it from that standpoint of somebody who is not only a professional, a career diplomat, but somebody who has the intellect in order to be able to support every position he's coming out with. But I'll tell you something about being advisor at whatever, both at the national and the subnational levels. The title says it all. It is for one thing for you to advise, and it's the other thing for your advice to be taken. But you would have done well if you render your advice as a technocrat professionally and to your principal. Whether the advice is taken or not taken is a different ballgame altogether. If the advice is a little bit tainted, given political considerations, that again is for the political master to decide. Now, what priority areas do we have with this inflow of $50 billion US investment? If you ask me, priority should be security. After security, infrastructure and utilities, because the rate at which we are faced with infrastructural decay, if you are manufacturing something, anything here in Abuja, and you have to distribute across the country, and it is going to be done by road, you will now know the extent of the decay I'm talking about, how that will impinge on your overhead costs in terms of cost of production. And if that good is supposed to compete with similar products from China, that can afford to produce at a vast lower overhead cost, then you're being in a position to compete is already challenged by the state of the infrastructure in the country. So infrastructure will go in as next after insecurity, and of course utilities, because you and I know that no matter how robust you are, you cannot afford to run your private generating set in order to do a production. I mean,
all year long.
All year long. I mean, you need to ask members of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria to get what they are faced with now. So, security, infrastructure, and utility. But because the rest of the world is not waiting for us, if you ask me, I think we should be running on all directions at the same time.
Okay, running on all directions at the same time. Let me add this to it, and I believe I'm going to get an answer for it. Looking at running on all the developments at the same time, it's like coming to power. We can talk about using the normal, the one we know today. Then using the solar, using every means of wind, solar, the thermal, and all forms of power source, so as to enable our people achieve a lot more. How do you see that? Is it working? Will it help us?
I wouldn't know, because I haven't taken a look that direction recently. However, I do realize that we have multifaceted opportunities in order to have a basket source of power.
Yes,
okay. Now, I read the same UNDP. There's this UNDP report I read some years ago that identified more than 100 waterfalls within Nigeria that can have turbines installed and then generate hydroelectricity. In the capital of Plateau State, before every other thing was brought, all power sources were brought under NEPA, I think by the Obasanjo administration during his military years, just had an independent power source, which was generating power from a dam, and they never experienced outage. Now, if you're talking of thermal, after the regime of Babangida, I'm not too sure, sold out the Ijora power station, which used to utilize coal from Enugu coal mine. I don't think that we have any coal thermal power station powered by coal. And of course, the Egbin, which is supposed to utilize our gas, we have more gas than we have petrol. So we are just dependent on the Kainji Dam, which is the only other alternative source. And all that, Kainji Dam and all that. Talking about thermal, we have Wiki Warm Springs in Bauchi. Nobody has tapped into that to generate electricity from nature's bounty of hot water using from the ground. We also have one in Ekiti or Ondo State, Ikogosi. I don't think we have ever looked at that direction. So we have all of that. Of course, they know that our coal spanning from Enugu State through my state, Benue State, up to Bauchi State and all that, up to Okaba coal mines. These are redundant coal. We are not using them, but anytime agreements and are written for us to sign against or towards global warming, we go to sign when we are not even contributing to anything at all. So I think all of this can come, not to talk of wind and stuff. So we are endowed well enough in order to begin to move away towards other alternative sources of power generation and power distribution.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Your Excellency, before I let you go, I don't know why we have not had our questions, because recently I noticed that the network is not so beautiful for everyone these days. But let's see, we may still have some before we conclude. Let me ask, this non-appointment of ambassadors by our president, President Tinubu, he has been in office for 2 years plus now, and up to this point in time, nobody's talking about appointment of ambassadors. What implication does it have for Nigeria and Nigeria's foreign policy delivery?
Okay, I've addressed this issue in multiple media outings, newspapers. But since you ask, I will.
Please.
I think the answer has already been given by the foreign minister sometime last year, that it was budgetary challenges that were responsible for the non-appointment and deployment of our principal envoys to man our missions, especially at the ambassadorial level across the world.
Yes.
Now, what are the implications? If you look at it in a cursory manner without any in-depth attention to it, one can conclude that government and governance is a continuum. So in the absence of an ambassador in any given mission, the most senior foreign service officer on ground will act at chargé affairs at interim. But it stops there. But if you look at it very, very critically, you will come away with the fact that because diplomacy and diplomatic practice is hierarchy laden, there is how far a chargé can go in a given situation, in a given mission. Yes, he will be accepted amongst other heads of mission as a head of mission, but he is a head of mission in the interim and below ambassadorial rank. He cannot and will not have access to his receiving head of state. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, his receiving Minister of Foreign Affairs, may be averse to receiving him also in situations where we have critical issues to be sorted out and demand attention to be paid at the ministerial level or at the head of state level or the presidential level in the receiving state. I think that is when it begins to hamper our foreign policy delivery. And again, also the issue of morale for foreign service officers who have come of age and who have been waiting for the past 2 years to be appointed ambassadors before they retire. I mean, this impinges very much on morale, and that could also impinge in turn on productivity of such officers.
Yes. Because I mean, staying there for too long when you know you're supposed to have gone over to the next, it kills just as I said, the moral, the interest of the fellow to work, and the desire dies because you don't want me to go further. So what are you disturbing me for? Well, that's life. That is life. Well, we would look at certain things. We have looked at certain things, and I think we've gone far in looking at things already. That even when we don't receive calls, we will say that we could say that we're satisfied. We've gotten a lot out of you, sir.
Thank you.
And we are glad that you came in and you were part of what we've done here today.
Thank you.
I must say that Ambassador Amidu Ode, who happens to have come in here this day, has helped us and opened up our eyes towards a lot more, and that we have achieved a whole lot, even talking with him. And in the absence of getting to have calls from you, dear viewer, I believe that I must have spoken your mind. That must have been why you didn't bother one more time to call or to say anything. So let me thank you for letting me do it and getting it done the way I have done it. But all the same, we'll return to him to say, Your Excellency, sir, if, just as we are here now, someone asks you, what is it you wish this country, what do you wish you think you want for Nigeria? How do you handle it?
What do I want for the foreign policy of Nigeria?
What do you think should be the best thing for the foreign policy of Nigeria and for activities in the embassies for our people?
No, of course, my dream and my hope for the foreign service of Nigeria should be able to be out there and defend and protect the national interests as to the best of their ability. But again, these things don't just come from the sky. Funding is quite pertinent in foreign policy execution. In addition to funding, properly trained and properly equipped foreign service officers, the diplomatic agents, is also very, very important. With morale that is nosediving, you wouldn't expect the best out of such people, elements, and all. For example, an officer, let's say 2 years ago, who is due for ambassadorial posting, appointment and deployment, he has 5 years to go. That was 2 years ago.
Yes.
Now, 2 years down the line, he hasn't been done. He has 3 years to retirement. Now, if you appoint him now, how do you expect him to be focused, given that he has 3 years to retirement, as against 5 years ago, he would have had and all that. So these things begin to jumble up the human mind. I know how it works, and what have I got on ground to retire with and retire into. So the foreign service is supposed, therefore, to be well equipped in terms of manpower training and experience. And experience comes out of exposure. For a 21st century diplomat, of course, a lot of training has to go into it. And again, adequate funding. That has to be there. If we are not being adequately funded, then you do not expect. Over the last couple of months, if not in the last 1 year, there have been distress calls. Oh, we haven't been paid our foreign service allowances for so many months. And I have had some experience of this kind of inadequate funding. Let me share this story. I was chargé in Mexico. This was between 2016 and 2017. And commodity prices fell. So the Buhari administration had to do some readjustment in terms of foreign exchange allocation and all that. And not only was it inadequate, it was not even coming in time. So I had my admin attaché, confidential secretary, who could not pay up the energy bill, gas bill, for his apartment in an upscale side of Mexico City. And in any case, he must eat in his house. So his wife went out, bought some charcoal to cook. The charcoal, activated in their kitchen, threw up a lot of smoke. The smoke triggered off the smoke alarm, the fire alarm. Fire alarm in a condo, upscale condo. And before you know it, the fire service were already on their doorsteps, on their way and all that. And he called me, Oga. Of course, using the typical Nigerian language, alarm don't blow. I said, what the hell are you talking about? And he told me the story. I sat in my house, called the Mexican chief of protocols, a lady, made other contacts with people I had already known, local notables, and said, please, this thing must not get out into the press. Do this for me. And thanks be to God, we were able to do that and didn't get into the press. So it's not something that it's new. It's always been there, and we need to make conscious efforts in order to stymie this sort of embarrassing situation. Not to talk of rents not being paid on time and people being thrown out. Okay, so we need to make sure make sure that this is done by deliberate exertion of effort in order to stymie this sort of embarrassing situation.
Thank you so much, sir. You have really done a whole lot. And this last one you said has just gone to perfect the fact that we said that you are an advocate on the importance of the media in shaping a vibrant foreign policy. You have just proven it. We thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
That's been wonderful having you, sir. And
thank you.
An enjoyable session, and I wish you could start all over to do it again.
Thank you.
And please, I want to say, this will not be the last time you will be here with us. We want to invite you over and over again. Please do oblige us when we ask you to come again.
When we are always available, especially in retirement.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dear viewer, you have been here and you've seen, I've been with Ambassador Ogbole Ameduode. He happens to be the former Nigerian High Commissioner to Singapore and one-time spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who served as Nigeria's ambassador to Mexico, and once appointed someone that spoke for that ministry. Well, he is always a prominent voice on Nigerian foreign policy and diplomacy, and you heard while we were talking, there was one he said he had done on a multiple platform, so it's all part of it. So we want to say it's good having you being part of the program. It's true we didn't get to receive the calls, as I said earlier, but then it's all part of it too. And thank you for being part of this program and for watching and learning a lot from Ambassador Ameduode. This is how we'll run off from here today. Say this is how we'll end the program. We'll hope to return again even Monday. Until we get to meet again on the program, let me say on behalf of all that has worked to make sure that I reached you the way I did reach you, not forgetting to mention Timothy Obonna, not forgetting to mention others with whom he had worked, not forgetting also that there is Chidera Wu, as well as Victor Adeyeye, and a lot of fellows with whom we have worked. I can't just go on sitting here to mention Bright Chukwebue, Victor Chizea, well as a lot more, and not forgetting the producer of the program, of course. The producer of the program, Ruben Okala. And this is Okechukwu Onobogu. What do I say? May the best happen to us all the time.
Amen.